Speaking of doomsday, let's talk about Venezuela. Sure. And are these U.S. sanctions coming, you think, and would they help?
I tend to think not, because that they're not coming because of President Trump's apparent sensitivity to higher oil prices. While Venezuela's oil production has cratered, it's still about 1 million barrels a day, and it's actually 500,000 barrels a day of very important crude oil to our U.S. Gulf Coast refiners, actually 5 of them.
Because it's the heavy crude, right? That they're, in fact, the light crude that we now get from fracking, they don't refine so much, correct?
Can't use it. As a matter of fact, our refiners along the Gulf Coast, the 2 are Citgo and several others, are specifically built for this Venezuelan oil.
Citgo's Venezuelan, right?
It is, yes.
So what happens?
So there's a home field advantage there. Well, that's the whole. Well, part of the problem here is that the other thing that the sanctions would do would probably knock the bulk of Venezuela's oil off the market, because they would also be foreclosed from buying our light oil, which they use to mix with their heavy oil to make it flow and be delivered and put on the tankers so they can go out to the rest of the world. So it's not necessarily a lock that because if we stop buying their oil via sanctions, that the rest of the world could pick it up, because they would probably not have the capacity to pump it and ship it and move it around, because they won't have our dilutants, as it's called, to make the oil flowable.
So we're actually, I mean, if sanctions were to go into effect, it would really hit the oil market in 2 places: the ones that sell the light crude and the ones that need the heavy crude.
That's right,
so
and our refiners.
Yeah,
that's right, and it's going to hit our transportation sector, commercial transportation sector, the hardest, because this type of oil gets made mostly into diesel fuels, jet fuel.
But could we substitute that if it weren't coming from Venezuela? Could we get that heavier crude from Alberta or something?
It's tight right now. That part of the market, the light end, it's referred to as condensate. Okay, that goes really into gasoline production, straight through. Is in abundance, as we know from the shale producers. This medium and heavy stuff, so the differential has actually come way up.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what killed the Venezuelan economy and their oil business?
Socialism?
Socialism, corruption?
Massive corruption, for sure.
Corruption.
Look, there was a case down in Miami that had over $1 billion worth of stolen funds from Venezuela that sort of accused indirectly Maduro himself of being involved. He was never formally charged, but it was a case earlier in the middle of last year that highlighted this. And when you start taking $1 billion out of any company, Exxon, you know, you're not going to be doing too good. And that's what we've seen happen here.
So you would sell any pop in crude on the notion that sanctions will go into effect, because you don't think that's going to happen?
I would. And again, this market has dealt with Venezuela pretty much being out of the market anyway.
Right.
This would hurt a bit, but yes, I would sell any pop on the worries over Venezuela.